Big30’s father gives new evidence. I don't know if y'all seen, but allegedly Big30’s father went under oath and said that my son be having Glocks, Drakes, and switches, right? And then also when the feds picked up Big30, they found Draco, all that, the same gun that was given that, you know, he's supposed to have, and then the same gun he used during the little Gucci robbery or whatever. So we finna see what's up.
Now, it's been a lot going on, but try to stay focused, y'all. Because
Alright,
it
bet.
seems like every other day something new is happening, and it's just going to show that that music industry ain't what we think it is, and a lot of weird stuff goes down behind the scenes. And this Pooh Shiesty, Big30 and Gucci Mane case isn't no different. Now, as y'all know, we all assume that Big30 was probably the only one besides Pooh Shiesty's father that would probably catch a break in this case. His lawyer was confident, the prosecutor seemed to not have much evidence against him, and they have even said that he should be granted a bond in the upcoming days. However, with the feds being the feds, they said, hold on, wait a minute, y'all thought we was finished. They done pulled the Uno reverse and the draw 2 card out, as they have new evidence against Big30, which can be very damaging to this case, and it's all coming from his own father as well.
That's crazy.
Now, times at the time, I tell y'all this. Matter of fact, they tell y'all themselves, anything you say or do can or will be used against you in the court of law. So when you're questioned by law enforcement, and they ask if you wish to speak after reading you your Miranda rights, the only thing you should be saying is, I only wish to speak with my lawyer present. Or simply, just say nothing at all. Many guys have this stigma that they could finesse their way out of them handcuffs and find themselves digging themselves into a bigger hole than intended. And to make matters worse, this isn't the old days. Now every officer now is required to equip themselves with body cameras, so everything you say is being recorded, and even if they wanted to help you, they put their job at risk. So that's the gift and the curse of those body cams, because back in the days, you had some cops that let you go for things that they weren't supposed to. However, they now are forced to play by the book due to the body cameras and corrupted police officers that have been caught throughout the years doing foul play. So in one breath, the body cams could be your best friend, but they can also be your worst enemy. We've seen celebrities such as Young Thug who tried saying things in attempts to stop themselves from getting in trouble, which will only backfire on them in the long run, as Young Thug's interrogation footage went viral and many people felt like he was willing to cooperate after telling an officer that he would let him know whatever he wanted to know. However, Young Thug's response was that he was basically
Young Thug was snitching? I didn't see that. We gotta get on that. Young Thug said, I'll tell you what I want, whatever you want to know. Hold on, we gotta see that later. I ain't gonna lie.
trying to finesse his way out of that situation, and that's all that was. But speaking of saying too much, we have Memphis rapper Big30’s father, who seemed to have made things worse for his son within the case of him and Pooh Shiesty allegedly robbing Gucci Mane and his staff, kidnapping, and forcing him to sign his way out of the 1017 contract. Now at first in the paperwork, they claimed that there were firearms involved, and then Pooh Shiesty and Big30’s lawyer claimed that there were no firearms present, nor do prosecutors have any evidence of it. In a typical lawyer fashion, they both seem pretty convincing while saying so.
What didn't we hear today? What we didn't hear today is there is no contract, this mystery contract. They have no contract. They have no video of this alleged signing of a contract. They have no guns. They have no jewelry. They have none of that physical evidence. What they have is they have allegedly 5 individuals, one of them being a very well-known individual that is allegedly cooperating with the government and making these allegations against my client and many more.
The interesting thing that we've seen in the last couple of days is that Gucci Mane has come out publicly and said that he's not cooperating with the government.
And it is worth noting that last week we did hear from an FBI agent who said that he had not heard from Gucci Mane either. He also noted that there were no working video cameras inside this recording studio at the time of this incident. Darcy.
Now what if I told you that according to a recent 19-page brief in support of motion for revocation, FBI's Ryan Raybould would include that Big30’s dad confirmed himself that the firearms that was used on the scene are the same firearms that Big30 have possessed and or owned. Big30 also took his father's Hellcat from Memphis to Dallas to set up the whole play on Gucci Mane as well. Lord have mercy. Now here's the thing. I don't know about that whole thing about agreeing that his son possessed the weapons using the commission of the crime, but if he admitted that 30 took the car to Dallas, that's understandable, and here's why. So you can't get mad when people who aren't in the streets do things that aren't street when you unknowingly included them in street business, because these are the results. Here's my theory. His father had to admit that 30 took his car down there because through license plate readers, surveillance, and other crazy technology that we don't know that they have, I'm sure they tracked that Hellcat from Dallas back to Memphis.
Y'all gotta think about it like this too. If they tracking the Hellcat, right? Let's say it like this. If they tracking the Hellcat, right? They seen it going through all these cities. They're gonna go back to the owner and ask him, do you know where your car is? If you say no, say if you know where your car is and you trying to lie and say no, they're gonna be like, so your car was stolen. If you don't come out blatantly saying your car was stolen, then they automatically know that you know where your shit went. You feel what I'm saying? And who got your shit. So it's like his dad had to admit to knowing where his car was going, or mess around and just lie and be like, oh, it was stolen. Like, it was stolen on my driveway. I didn't know. But even then, you could tell if a nigga lying, bro. You could tell if a nigga lying. Like, ain't no getting out of that. Especially when the parents get involved. Like, imagine if Pooh Shiesty daddy was not street. That man telling it all, boy, on me.
And also align all the timestamps to match up with the time of the crime. So when they tracked the car back to its original owner, which is 30's dad, he said, no. Right? How finesse 2 times do it? No. That wasn't me. No. Because here how the feds play. Them being thirsty for a conviction, they probably said, look, whether you were in that car or not, it's yours, and clearly you know who uses your car. So you're either going to tell us who had your car because it was identified on the scene of a crime, or you're going to jail. Simple. And this forced his father to have to say that he wasn't the one in the vehicle and basically say who was. Now, is it the right thing to do for a citizen that's older? Yeah. Especially if you took my car to go do something like this without telling me. So I'm not too sure if that's exactly how it went, but either way, his father was put in a position to where he had no choice, and it just is what it is. And using somebody's actual car when you could just buy a striker because y'all got money, it's kind of crazy. Between that and bringing your phone on a drill with you is just rookie mistakes. Now we're going to get into the paperwork that explain all this, and then I want to know what y'all think in the end. Do y'all think his father purposely told on his son and worked a deal with the feds, or do you think he was just put in a very compromising position, which led him no choice?
I ain't gonna lie. We're gonna answer that real quick. To be honest with you, I feel like it was just, I'm thrown in the midst of the fire. I'm thrown in the midst of the fire just because my son, quote unquote, want to be a dumbass type shit. Like, what can you really do as a father in that situation? You can't lie. They just told you, if you don't tell us who, we taking you to jail, because that mean that was you in that car. You feel what I'm saying? And it was linked to a crime scene, and it came back to you, so you going to jail. Ain't no telling how old bruh daddy is. If bruh daddy like 50 plus, he not taking a rap. He not taking a rap, bro. Especially if you know your son be out there doing dumb shit. Why would a 50-year-old father take the rap? It's like with the queso situation, right? Like, I think during like the time or whatever that incident, bro, I think the prosecutor, whoever, they literally said that the only reason his queso daddy was even like part of it is because he went to go pick him up and he knew about it. So he was an automatic accessory on some shit. Like, he ain't turn them in, make them turn themselves in. He went to go pick their ass up, take their ass home, and that's what it was. You feel me? And then when it came time to, you feel me, snitch get time cut, look what his father did, and everybody was like, oh, he ain't keep it solid for his son young, his son is, you old already, you ain't got much life to go, and all this and that. But it's like, bro, you put me in a situation I should have never even been in, you feel me? Like, and that's just how it should be going, bro. When you put your parents in the shit and then they ain't got no choice. They don't want to do it, but they got no choice.
Up button, hype the video so we can get into the algorithm. And if you not subscribed to the platform already, make sure you do so now. Let's get into it. Now, shout out to Bryson Boone Paul on Twitter, as he was the one that published his paperwork that I seen. Y'all go check out his content. Now, when it comes to Big 30's father telling the feds about him owning the same firearm that is believed to be involved in the crime, the paperwork would read, quote, The nature of the offense is indisputably serious. The defendant is charged with kidnapping and conspiracy to commit kidnapping in violation of 18 U.S.C. and carrying a maximum sentence of life imprisonment. Far from a crime of passion unfolding in the heat of a bitter dispute, this was a premeditated, multi-state operation involving non-armed individuals converging on a recording studio to kidnap and rob 3 victims at gunpoint. The defendant was no mere minor player in his violent offense. He himself retrieved the very firearms that enabled the initial armed coercion of RD. He took it upon himself to film the kidnapping and create a memento of his and his associates' heinous acts. He used his size to physically barricade the door to the control room to trap the victims inside. All the while they had firearms pressed to their heads and their possessions stripped from their bodies, and he pointed a firearm at the victim's security guard. The victim statements to law enforcement after the incident report that they believed during this crime they were going to be executed. Even the magistrate judge characterized this as an incredibly serious, dangerous incident. Thus, this factor weighs strongly in favor of detention. Now, that was important because people felt that there was no evidence on Big 30, but here they are explaining the evidence that they do have, which relies heavily on timestamps of surveillance. That not only pinned him to being in the area of the crime, but also traveling across state lines with the premeditated intention of committing this crime. So when it comes to the evidence,
and they finna get cooked coming into Texas like that. Texas don't play. Texas do play about a certain things, but certain things Texas do not play about. Texas not finna let another nigga come from another state and commit some crimes, bro, without getting hit with some. In your state, it might have been 5 years. Here in Texas, it's gonna be 10, 15 on bro.
It'll stay quote. The evidence against the defendants is exceptionally strong. All 3 victims and the studio employee identified the defendant as present and actively involved, including eyewitness accounts establishing that the defendant retrieved the bag containing the Draco Williams Jr., pointed at RD, filmed RD's coerced signing, barricaded the studio door, and confronted security with a firearm. Surveillance footage from the office building and neighboring buildings corroborates his presence at the offense. Moreover, his cell phone records and vehicle telematics, including those from the vehicle registered to his father's name, place him in the area, confirm his travel from Memphis to Dallas days before the offense, and track his movements afterward. Surveillance footage from the Comfort Inn showed the defendant wearing clothing consistent with what he wore during the kidnapping. Co-defendants were identified through fingerprints, Instagram posts displaying stolen property, and Greyhound bus records, all of which corroborate the broader conspiracy in which the defendant was a principal participant. The defendant's destruction of his cell phone upon arrest further demonstrates consciousness of guilt and an awareness that the phone contained incriminating evidence, including, most likely, the very recording he made of RD's coerced contract signing. For all these reasons, this factor weighs strongly in favor of detention. Now that we painted that picture, here is how they are saying that he played a bigger role in the crime, and despite them saying there's no proof of him possessing a firearm, they have eyewitnesses, victim statements, and his own father admitting to him having those same firearms that were described. The paperwork will read, quote, "First, the defendant's role in the charged offense was far more active and dangerous than the court's analysis reflected. The magistrate characterized the evidence of the defendant possessing a firearm during the offense as not fully defined and not entirely clear, noting that there's not real clear evidence that he had a firearm, although he brought someone a firearm. That characterization does not hold up against the record. The uncontroverted testimony established that when security officers CW and TD managed to partially breach the studio door, they observed the defendant and at least 2 others standing behind it, and that the defendant was pointing a gun at the security guards, which caused them to recognize they were outgunned and outnumbered, and to retreat. The agent further testified that all victims reported that every defendant in the control room had a firearm, and that it was specifically reported that the defendant did not have one. The criminal complaint states that the remaining subjects produced handguns or AR, AK-style pistols, as the group exited the recording room. And the defendant's own father confirmed under oath that he owned a Glock 45 and a Draco, the same types of firearm recovered at the time of the defendant's arrest 3 months later. The magistrate's hesitation appears to have been driven by the absence of a standalone sentence in the complaint attributing a specific firearm to the defendant by name. But as a testifying FBI agent explained, the complaint does not contain every fact known to investigators. When the testimony, victim statements, and the defendant's own admitted gun ownership are considered together, the evidence that the defendant was armed during the kidnapping is substantial. and the magistrate's treatment of this issue as ambiguous led the court to undervalue both the nature and circumstances of the offense and the danger the defendant poses. Now, if all that evidence wasn't enough, here's the part where they mention that he took his father's Hellcat and traveled from Memphis to Dallas, and after the situation happened, back from Dallas to Memphis. It is stated, quote, cell phone records and vehicle telematics confirm that the defendant traveled from Memphis, Tennessee to Dallas, Texas in a Dodge Charger Hellcat registered to his father, arriving on January 9th, 2026. The defendant traveled with the other co-conspirators to the offense location and then to the Star in Frisco afterward. He returned to Memphis on January 13th, 2026 with 2 of the other co-conspirators. Now, y'all, I'm not saying what he should do. I'm not telling him what to do. But what I would say is this. When them feds come, as I always say, they come with receipts. They not playing, and they're not looking to give you an ultimatum on whether you should do this or that. No, they come with time, and if you don't want the time, you go straight to trial. That's how the feds work. And the reason why they do that is because when they come with their evidence, it's so concise and down-packed already, they don't need you to sit there and try and go back and forth with them. And a lot of people make that mistake, and they fall victim to the 98 to 99 conviction rate that the feds have. And with this amount of evidence that they claim to have against Big 30, you don't want to force their hand. And if they got all that against him, just imagine what they got on Pooh Shiesty. Now, they said that his father said what he said under oath, so 9 times out of 10, if he tried to take back what he said, he can go to jail or face some type of penalization. So if they do decide to take it to trial, they're definitely going to have his own father go on the stand and testify about what he told them, which we're just going to see another one of those queso situations all over again.
That's what I'm saying.
Now, to be honest with you, I can't totally blame his father because we don't know what role he played. If this man just took this man's car and decided to go to Dallas and do whatever he did, allegedly, then that's on him. Because they said they traced the car, they got cell phone records, they got everything, y'all. So it's going to be hard for him to fight this, but let's see. If you ask me, his best thing to do is take a plea. Because if not, they say he already faces like life or something like that. So I don't know, y'all. Y'all jump in the comments. Let me know what y'all think about
That
this.
shit crazy.
How do y'all
bro.
feel about what they said?
Throwing your life away over some. I mean, I would have stayed in my contract. I don't care. We eating, you eating. I don't know, bro. It's different when you looking at it from the outside looking in. Ain't no telling what they brains would have thought in that situation and everything. So, but I know when this child come, the tool gonna be flooded, bro. The tool gonna be flooded. Big 30, if Big 30 get out, it's gonna be a very, very shock. Like bro said, they might as well just take the plea, bro. They know what they did, bro. Ain't no reason to, you feel me? Like ain't no reason to try to even fight it. Like the only person I really know who beat the feds was Boosie, Dirk, Vaughn. Who else beat the feds? Young Boy. You feel me? And there's a lot of people that went to the feds and couldn't beat the feds. So the chances of them beating the feds, like he said, is 1 to 2%. You're not gonna get pardoned by Trump, bro. You're not gonna get pardoned, bro. You feel me? You can hire the best lawyers you want, bro. If that evidence is stuck there and it's stuck there by the feds, yeah, bro, ain't no need to fight, bro. And knowing these are street niggas. So y'all already know how street niggas get. Street niggas will be, I'm taking it to trial. I ain't taking no plea. But that's the dumbest thing you could do, because once they hit you with, they could say, take this 10 to 15 years. You get out halfway on good behavior, you able to be eligible for parole. These niggas gonna go in there, go to trial, bro, gonna be facing up to 50 to life. And then when they lose, bro, they in there crying and woody weep. You feel what I'm saying? But hopefully Pooh Shiesty and them figure it out. If they get out, bro, FDL2 gonna be crazy. I ain't gonna lie, and I'm bumping that in the car.